And that's it for tonight's news. Watch us tomorrow at the very same time. Good night.
Good night. Hello and welcome to Viewpoint, where we bring you the latest stories making headlines around the world to update your point of view with a fresh perspective. And today as well, joining me on the discussion is Uwin Hetiarachi.
Hello Dulanjali, and hello to you. Of course, we have time to talk about this today as well. We have lots of topics of interest. The current world market, the economic market is going to be a real focus today, so let's look forward to that.
Let's see what we have in the lineup. Let's take a look at the lineup. Stock market are closed. GameStop trading and stock shorting. Cryptocurrency and the Bitcoin boom. Electric vehicles and the international push to electrify. Myanmar, a state of turmoil. So that's the lineup we have for today, and before we dive into the news as such, we wish to bring you a little insight as to what is happening in a stock market, just to make it easy for you to understand the story better that we will bring afterwards. So let's start off by just briefing a little bit on what happens in the stock market and what these new terms that we are hearing on news.
So I think first of all, it's easier to start with the stock itself. Now, of course, we've heard a lot of stuff about the stock market and what the trades are happening, but let's start with what a stock is. A stock or a share on equity is a part of a company. So it means like if you have 100% of the company, you own all of the company, right? So if you own a part of the company, say 25%, you can actually own it in terms of stock. So a lot of companies issue stocks. These can be from thousands to millions of stocks. So the percentage of the stock you own is the percentage of ownership, and the amount of stock can vary. The stocks actually started way back when I think everybody has heard of the East India Trading Company. So when they were starting off voyages to trade in spices, silk and gems and everything other than that, they started to realize that they didn't have enough capital for the voyages. So they went to some wealthy investors and said, hey, if you give us some money, we'll give you a part of the profit. So that's how the stocks were actually born at first. And after that, of course, their stock markets propped up. Now, of course, the main idea of owning a stock is to own the part of the company and receive part of the profit. So that was the initial aim of the stock market. Then, of course, like with everything, with money trading places, it happened that the stocks themselves became a business. Mm-hmm. So the price of stocks being manipulated to actually get more money and get some money.
They find creative ways.
Yes, to get some, profit in the short term. Not just wait for the dividends to come when. Now, dividend is the amount of money you receive in proportions to the stock you own. So just not waiting for the dividends to come, just to trade the stocks at a fast frequency and get some money. Now, this is done a lot by hedge funds. I think a lot of people have heard the term. Hedge funds are people who deal with stock in a rapid fashion. They have high frequency trading where they are buying and selling stocks in a second's time. So these are the terms that you really need to learn. Now, of course, talking about stock markets, there are a lot of stock markets out there. It's not just one stock market. Now, of course, Sri Lanka has its own stock market, the Colombo Stock Exchange, and then New York has the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ, and there is the Japan Stock Exchange, China has one, and the Hong Kong, so and so forth. There are different stock markets and different companies listed. The biggest companies are, I think everybody's heard of Amazon, Google, Apple, Tesla. all those companies have shares in the stock market and they are bought and sold. I think a lot of people these days got interested in the stock market because they're at home. Now, of course, being at home, not having that much money, you're having to dip into your savings. And at the same time, you want to increase your savings as well because the future is uncertain. A lot of people are losing their jobs. A lot of professions are fading out. A lot of industries are experiencing tough time. In Sri Lanka, you see the tourism industry going through a steep slump. And all those people started actually looking at the stock market and seeing it as a viable opportunity to trade. Now, of course, trading in the stock market, you can't do it going in and just purchasing stock. No one, not a, ordinary person can't do that. You have to have special certificates to actually buy and sell stocks. So those are trading companies or brokerages, as you might have heard. And those companies get the money and actually go into the stock exchange and buy stocks. Now that's what they're supposed to do. Now, of course, there are some companies who are operating in that fashion, but they also have private holdings that they trade and sell. So they don't actually go through the stock market. This is become a problem for later for securities exchanges around the world because now they realize that a lot of the stock, if you buy and sell stock in the stock market, it's transparent. They can see what type of, the money coming in and going out, what stocks are selling, what prices they are selling at. When the private offshore selling and buying happens, that is actually invisible. So you don't know what prices these are going at. Maybe people are overpaying, maybe people are selling at a higher price than it. So, buying at a lower price, it's really iffy and almost opaque. So that's why so this is I think a lot of people have heard of Robinhood and GameStop,
Yes.
and those are companies we will come to in a bit. But those companies also operate in a similar fashion a little bit, actually Robinhood not. There are a lot of companies that do operate in the outside of the stock market, but they do have the connections. So these are the players involved in a lot of the news stories that are going around. Now we see a lot of people being cautious about stock. Now, if a reputed company has stock, you don't have to worry about it because you can find information online. Now, there are things that are not allowed in the stock market. You
Because
can't,
that matters for the person to
Yeah.
decide if he should hold on to the stock or he should. If it's on a natural basis, it's easy
yeah.
for him to make a decision. But this
Yeah.
is hidden.
So we have two terms for companies. Private companies are people who own the company don't have it in the stock market. It can be multiple owners, but the shares are within themselves. So they have percentages on ownership of the company. Public companies are the listed companies that have shares. Now these public companies have to disclose their earnings. They have to have their everything up to code.
Financials and
Yeah,
at
financials
the
and
right
everything.
times, yes.
Everything that they have to do, they have a specific code in employee conduct and how they report. They have to do all that according to what the stock market says, the securities exchanges says. So that aspect is there. Then also, they can't disclose privileged information. Now there are things that are called company secrets. Hey, we are going to acquire this company. This can't be disclosed to a stock marketer or a stock holder, and they can't trade on that information. That's what you call insider trading.
Insider trading.
So there have been instances. There are some countries that do allow. Some security exchanges don't have a rule against that, but most of the ones have one that says you can't trade on privileged information. Now these are the things where we really want to focus on. Now, of course, the next thing that happened is one of the biggest stories that came out of the stock market. Biggest stories that happened in the recent past. I think you might have heard about GameStop, right?
Yes, for sure. That's where you buy the games.
Yeah.
A lot of video games. We know them as the retailer,
Yeah, there are brick and mortar
and they were
companies.
not that in good shape in the recent past, honestly, as well.
Yes, so this is interesting.
I think we can take the start off for the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
segment as well from this.
Yeah, this is about GameStop and everything that happened with Reddit Wall Street Bets. Now, Reddit is a public online forum. It's a message board where you can actually comment and discuss about topics of interest. Now, subreddit is where people of like-minded things gather around to talk about the same topic, and they give us different updates. Now, that is where everything started about GameStop. Now, GameStop is a brick and mortar company. Like you said, it's a retail outlet. Now, of course, in the modern time, everything has gone online. You see a lot of brick and mortar companies shutting down. Even in Sri Lanka, you see some boutique shops shutting down. Now this is something that happens, and I think a lot of the stock market wanted it to happen a little bit faster. So a short of a stock is when a stock is going down. So say you own of a chair company some stocks, all right?
Yeah.
So if I think that chair company's stock is going to fall, I'm going to
wanna
come
sell
to
it.
you
Yes.
and borrow some stock from you. Borrow in the sense, hey, I'll give it back on this date, and I take the stock and I pay you some money, and I get that stock, and I go out and sell that stock for the price that it's trading at right now.
Right.
And when the due date comes around, if that stock has fallen, the intention is to buy the stock back from the stock market, so I make a profit and I give it back to you. You give me the initial sum that I gave you. So in that process, you haven't lost money, but you have lost the value of the stock.
Yes.
But I have gained some money. So this is a short per se. All those companies actually are the stock exchange. How this happened is a little bit intricate as well. The stock of GameStop was shorted to 120%. So whatever the stock was exchanging at the stock market, it was shorted more than 120%. So there was so many shorts going on, so many people borrowed from each other, and another person borrowed from them, thinking that this is going to fall, and all the news article, all the publicity materials fueling this. Of course, people at Reddit, Wall Street Bets, realized that this is something that is happening right now. So what they did was they bought all the stock they can buy, whereby which all these guys who were shorting the stock had to buy this stock back, which shot up the stock to nearly from $8 to I think $300, near to $400. This stock went on trading until the end of January, when most of these shorts were due. So this was something that I think everybody in the world who was not in the Wall Street was like a little bit of, hey, stick it to the man kind of a situation, where everybody knew that this type of thing was happening in the Wall Street. So everybody was frustrated that they felt like they were taken advantage of, and they had the chance to actually make some money in the process of really making Wall Street a little bit uncomfortable. Now, of course, there were some firms, I think, who capitalized on the short, the other side of the short as well. People who were in the Reddit side, and there were some companies. So this is something that's normal. So in this specific instance, Robinhood, the company we were talking about, actually has a backer who was involved in the shorting, who were borrowing the Robinhood's, actually the GameStop stock, and actually shorting it, had a significant stake in Robinhood. Robinhood, in the midst of this buying frenzy, decided to stop trading and they stop letting people buy the stock. Now this is of course under investigation of lawmakers and congressmen and all the political parties involved in the USA said, hey, this is something that's a little bit
they wanted to just find out what actually is
this is something very severe. So they went ahead and said, hey, we want to investigate it. So there are investigations happening right now, and so this kind of thing, I think a lot of people started paying attention again to the stock market, because they saw people who invested some small amount of money making a lot of money. They said, all right, we'll learn a little bit more about these companies. So there are companies that are being shorted right now. They're like BlackBerry. If you think that the company can do well, I think the best advice is to go, if you're thinking about going for the stock market, to go for a company that you know well, in a field that you know well, that you think will do well. So it'll be small increases, but they will be safer
sustainable.
investment.
In the long term, it might not be a drastic drop, or you might not end up losing.
Yeah, so if you hear about somebody saying, hey, invest in this stock, don't do it just because somebody else tells you. Get that information verified from numerous sources and have a cognitive, logical look at the papers and all the material involved to see if this is something that's viable, that you feel. And you have to be really comfortable on that area to invest. And of course, get some really knowledgeable professionals who are vetted and then listen to their advice as well. Those are some really nice
Who needs to be
topics. Yeah.
trustworthy in
Yeah.
taking advice from.
It is
So,
money all.
ultimately,
Yeah.
you will be losing if you do
Yeah.
not make the right choices. So from there onwards, we'll go on to the cryptocurrency story. It's making headlines.
Yeah, so-
Tesla is coming into the picture.
Yeah, we'll talk about Tesla because we are actually going on to the EV side as well. Now, talking about cryptocurrency, this cryptocurrency actually came into be in a very interesting situation. Now, we're talking about 2020 being a hard year for a lot of people, and of course, you might have you might actually remember, a lot of people remember the 2008 crash. Then everything seemed to go up in flames. Now, this is also due to some, I think, shady practices by some stockbroker rages who decided to actually play with a little bit of money and securities. Now, securities are things that actually have a bunch of things. So there are things called mutual funds. So these things, there is a thing called credit swap. A credit swap happens when you get something like a mortgage. Now, say if you have a mortgage, you're very likely to pay a mortgage, right? Because it's for a house. So whatever else happens, like you have to stay in a house, so you will pay that
You're
out.
more obliged to, adhere to it and then make sure that you save it
Yeah.
for your sake at least.
So this happened when people actually went and said, all right, mortgages had different ratings. AAA means people are very likely to pay. They have very strong financial background. They are most likely to pay. So they're a B, C. What people did was they started trading on mortgages. Now this is very sure bet. Money is about to come in. So this was a surefire thing. Over the years, people actually started to bundle these mortgages. And how this happened was apparently B and C mortgages also got bundled with the A's and sold as A's at the A's prices. So this went on happening for a really long time, and all of a sudden in 2008, a lot of people realized, hey, this is not trading, because there were people who were trading AAA stock with, I think, 90% C value mortgages being invested in that. So this led to economic crash, and cryptocurrencies were born from that. Cryptocurrencies is, the first cryptocurrency to come into being was Bitcoin. Now, of course, a lot of people have heard of Bitcoin. The founder of Bitcoin, funnily enough, is unknown. Who founded Bitcoin is something of a mystery for a lot of people. Now, the pseudonym for the group of people or the person was Satoshi Nakamoto. He actually founded Bitcoin on the basis, it was a paper that he wrote and saying, hey, there are Bitcoin, because these type of securities and all the currency in the world is based on something. So it's whether it be gold, I think the US is based on oil. So there are different types of bases. So the point is, these are finite resources, so they will have value. What Satoshi Nakamoto and the rest did was issue a currency that is limited at the onset. So at any given time, there are only 21 million Bitcoins available.
Okay.
Now, of course, out of that, 18.6 has been mined and is out there. And this is why Bitcoin is valuable. So they created an artificial value. So when I hold it,
does it appreciate, you mean to say?
it appreciates on how much people actually want it. So it's a supply and demand thing, rather than, so it doesn't have any inherent value. So back in the days, people traded for something they had to another person. So the currency is a representation of something else. So this is currency is just because it's scarce, that's what this is available. So you might have heard recent stories on a lot of people buying or mining Bitcoin. Mining Bitcoin is when you get a specific computer rig and do huge arithmetic calculations and to find a part of a Bitcoin. And now Bitcoin has shot up in value. Right now Bitcoins are trading at around, I think, 48,000 US dollars. Initial boom, I think, subsided because of people in 2017, subsided because a lot of the enterprises didn't partake. Like you said, right now a lot of legitimate companies want to have Bitcoin stock and have reserves to their customers or as an investment tool. Now, of course, like you said, Tesla came into being, bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin to actually, and said, hey, in the future we might actually let you buy and sell cars using Bitcoin. So there are, the more people start accepting it and using it as a normal
As a
currency,
currency.
it'll actually go up, appreciate. So this is something that is happening right now, and I think yes. So there are a lot of other cryptocurrencies that have come to being as well. So you really have to be careful about this thing as well. So you know, one might come and say, hey, this cryptocurrency is very good or something like that, but you really have to do your own research. And of course there are a lot of fads, people who actually capitalize on a lot of situations. We talked about shady people, and wherever there's money, there will be person who will try to game the system
Yeah.
or take undue advantage.
Manipulate it
So this
to
has happened time and time again. There are people who have done cryptocurrencies, taken all the money and run, so done a runner. So this is also something that to be cautious of.
Right. So moving on to Tesla again, as I said, from Bitcoin, that is where the electric vehicles are coming into play with Elon Musk making a sudden change.
So yes, now electric vehicles, something completely entirely different. Now, if you said Elon Musk just became the richest man in the world. Now, of course, this also has to do with stock a little bit, because his stock price is inflated. His price to earning ratio, so which is what you determine, is about 16,000, so which is not great. So this time around, I think a lot of people are moving into electrifying their cars because there's a huge international push. Now, you might have heard there are a lot of countries who have countries actually signed into the Paris Accords. And one of the promises that they made is by 2030, 2035, they're going to fully electrify the cars, and they won't
There
allow
won't be
any
emission.
fuel operated cars to be sold as brand new. So the cars that you have, you can drive around, but others you won't be able to do. So this time around, a lot of companies are starting to make their cars electric. Like you see on screen, they are of course operated fully by electricity. They have a battery pack. Now, ion battery or lithium ion battery packs are the norm right now. Now, this is the issue because a lot of cars, they take a while to charge. Like a phone, if you have electrical equipment, it takes a while to charge. Now, a fuel car is quick and easy. You go to the petrol station or gas station and get a refill, and you're on your way. Maybe 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and maybe in Sri Lanka sometimes it takes a little while if there's traffic ahead, but that's the whole process. Now, for this particular issue, there have been a lot of breakthroughs. Now, a solid state battery has come into being. This is something that is actually using a solid cathode to actually transmit its electricity. Those can be charged a little bit faster than the lithium ion batteries, carbon solid batteries, so solid state batteries. So these are being researched by some companies. Now, there's a company in China who does battery swaps, who takes out the battery and puts another battery in a battery swapping station to get the car out in 3 minutes. So this is called NEO. So there are a lot of interesting things happening in the EV market. So this is what we are talking about now. Of course, pretty recently we saw on the news headlines that Toyota is actually getting into the game with a solid state battery. So that's a huge car maker. So we will see a huge revolution in the roads, I think.
It won't be a monopoly anymore. So
Yeah.
from there onwards, we are going to Myanmar, and it's chaos there. Let's just run through and take us through the situation there in the country.
Yes, Dulanjali. Now, of course, I think you saw the headline that we had. It was a little bit of funny video, but it is
ladies doing
aerobic exercises. But at the same time, it is a drastic look at the world. Right now, military leadership has come into Myanmar. Meanwhile, the general has come into the power, kicking out Aung San Suu Kyi and her party after the election, who won the election by 60%. So that particular video that you see on your screen is of aerobic exercises that the person is doing, and in the background you can see all the military convoy that is going into the parliament to actually seize power. So this is a video was shown around a little bit as saying, hey, this is the state of the world. There are people who are actually exciting, but this type of thing is also happening in the world right now. This particular instance took place because the military leadership is saying the actual election wasn't fair.
Yes.
But there is a rule in the Myanmar's constitution that says you have to have more than 75% of the seats power in the seats to agree to change the constitution. Effectively, even though there was a democratic leadership, the military had power to do anything they wanted. Even
So what's
seizing
the
power like
dictation?
this was allowed, even though there wasn't a dictator in place. The military had the power, and the military had a statement saying that they had 25% of the seat. Whatever happens in the elections, 25% of the seats in the parliament is the military's. So this, they were cautious. I think this might change, or there was a push to change, and of course this is why the powers that came to be,
So
the
up to
military
now,
leadership.
today is the eighth consecutive day that they are in protests.
Yeah,
so
there are protests
we yet
ongoing.
have to see what it might end up and how it might happen.
There were people who were actually crossing over, the policemen crossing over to the protesters' side. So this is an ongoing situation. I think a tense situation. As South Asians, we have to be
We have to be worried
very,
about
very,
as
yeah,
well.
very,
We
very.
can't just ignore their Myanmar, and as we have all the reasons to be cautious about. So with that, we have come to the end of the program, and thank you, Evan, for that insightful detail and helping us update our perspective and the viewpoint. And join us next, the fourth Sunday of the month, when we bring you back the latest stories making headlines around the world. Signing off today is Win and myself, along with Team Channel I. Thank you.
Thank you.